Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Modi and Angolan President Lourenco engage in delegation-level talks to strengthen India-Angola and India-Africa relations. India bans all imports from Pakistan with immediate effect. The Directorate General of Foreign Trade says the ban is to safeguard national security and uphold public policy. Intense battle between incumbent Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and the opposition leader Peter Dutton is visible as Australia chooses its next government. Singapore polls being seen as a referendum on the long-ruling People's Action Party and its current leader, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. The President of Angola, Joao Manuel Gonçalves Lourenco, received a warm welcome in India, marked by a 21-gun salute and the Guard of Honour. And he was received by the President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi at Rashtrapati Bhavan, highlighting India's strong ties with the Global South partners. This is President Lourenco's first ever bilateral state visit to India and is also the first visit by an Angolan president to India in 38 years. The visit comes at a time when India and Angola are celebrating the 40th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations this year. And the Angolan president was also received by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Hyderabad House in New Delhi for bilateral talks. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Lourenco also held delegation-level talks, and a number of MOUs in agriculture, Ayurveda and other traditional systems of medicine and culture were signed between India and Angola. There was a handing over of the International Solar Alliance Agreement as well. Addressing the media with President Lourenco, Prime Minister Narendra Modi underscored that terrorism is the biggest threat to humanity. He said that we are committed to taking firm and decisive action against terrorists.
हम एक मत है कि आतंकवाद मानवता के लिए सबसे बड़ा खतरा है। पहलगाम में हुए आतंकी हमले में मारे गए लोगों के प्रति राष्ट्रपति लॉरेंसो और अंगोला की संवेदनाओं के लिए मैं उनका आभार व्यक्त किया। We are committed to take firm and decisive action against terrorists and those who support them. We thank Angola for their support in our fight against cross-border terrorism.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on the Angolan President Manuel Lourenco, and the minister said that he values his warm sentiments for India and his guidance for taking this partnership forward, the Indo-Angola partnership, as well as the India-Africa relationship. President Lourenco also visited Rajghat and paid respects to Mahatma Gandhi earlier today. Let's bring in Akshay Dongro, who's been following the events closely. Akshay, put into context now the importance of this visit, first from the bilateral point of view and then also from the point of view of the African continent.
Well, from the bilateral point of view, Mark, this is in fact a significant visit. We are seeing a president of Angola coming to the country, coming to India after a gap of about 38 years. This is in fact a part of India strengthening the relations not only with Africa as a continent, but individually the countries of Africa as well. We have seen, as far as the development of Africa is concerned, many of the major developing economies are fostering closer ties to the African nations. We have seen China taking several steps in this regard. India has been taking several steps in this regard as well. So, as far as the grouping of global South is concerned, our countries are trying to foster closer ties with each other as well. As far as dependence, as far as independence of trade is concerned, as opposed to dependency only on the West, countries are expanding their trade ties, bilateral ties, defense ties, as well as several other cultural and traditional ties with other countries from all around the world. And India, this is another step in India's diplomacy book to foster closer ties with the countries of Africa. Now,
Right.
Angola has been a close partner of India. We have a history together. Both India had opposed Portuguese rule in Goa. India had supported the freedom of independence in Angola as well, and
Yes.
from the Portuguese colonizers as well. There was a shared value, there was a shared
Okay.
struggle between the two countries, and that bonds them together. But if you look at overall,
Yes, Akshay.
the point coming in is India trying to foster better relations with Africa as a continent as well, being part of the global South and developing.
Yes, Akshay,
economy.
but we look at some of the key areas of focus. They were like traditional medicine,
Right.
agriculture, cultural cooperation. Why are these being seen as important?
Well, these are quite crucial areas of engagement. Angola is an African country with an expertise in agriculture, fishing. There are several other aspects where Angola seeks to learn a lot from India, be it the pharmaceutical industry, trade, defense ties, maritime security. These are certain areas of mutual understanding and mutual interest for both India and Angola. If you go to another country, you generally trade in the goods that they build, that they export, that they have an expertise in. Similarly, when you look at these memorandums of understanding of close cooperation and close engagement, then both the countries are finding common grounds where they can learn from each other, common grounds of development, common grounds of engagement and cooperation as well. So be it agriculture, be it pharmaceutical, be it defense, maritime security, and all of these areas are key concerns or key opportunity areas for both Angola and India, and that perhaps is the reason why the MOUs are focused on these. On Ayurveda as well, which
Right.
is a major point of interest for several of the African nations.
Yes.
MOUs have been signed, and now the business level delegations that have also come, political delegations that have come with the Angolan president, will be engaging in bilaterals with their counterparts to foster better trade ties as well between Angola and India, and by large between Africa and India.
Okay,
as well.
we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Akshay Dongri. Thanks for being with us. Now, in another strict move against Pakistan, India has banned all imports from Pakistan amid soaring tensions over the Pahalgam terror attack. This will include finished or raw products. As per the Commerce Ministry, direct or indirect import or transit of all goods originating in or exported from Pakistan, whether or not freely importable or otherwise permitted, shall be prohibited with immediate effect until further orders. The government stated that the decision has been taken in the interest of national security and public policy. Any exception to this prohibition shall require prior government approval. Meanwhile, Pakistan has continued to violate the ceasefire by initiating unprovoked small arms firing across the line of control in different sectors of Jammu and Kashmir. The Indian Army troops have responded in a calibrated as well as a proportionate manner. This comes, in fact, as India has taken a series of measures in response to the Pahalgam terror attack, in which terrorists shot dead over 25 civilians in the Baisaran meadow. A 38-year-old woman died after a bomb exploded in her hands in the northern Greek city of Thessaloniki. This happened on Saturday. A police official stated that the woman attempted to plant an explosive device at a bank ATM in central Thessaloniki, but in fact it detonated in her hands. The blast caused significant damage to a nearby building, with debris scattered across the sidewalk and cars. Police forensic teams are investigating, and also a criminal inquiry is underway. The woman, with a history of criminal activity, is under investigation, and an anti-terrorism unit has been involved. The Russian port city of Novorossiysk declared a state of emergency on Saturday. This is after local authorities said that a Ukrainian drone attack had damaged a grain terminal and several residential buildings. There was no immediate comment from Ukraine, whose Air Force said that Russia had struck Ukraine overnight with 183 drones and 2 ballistic missiles. Andrei Kravchenko, who is the mayor of Novorossiysk, has inspected the damage of 3 apartment buildings, and he said that a woman was seriously injured and hospitalized while 2 children were hurt. Kravchenko added that one of the injured people, a woman, was in hospital in a serious condition. 2 children had been injured, local authorities had said. Still to come here on DD India Live. President Trump urges Americans to look long-term with proposed budget cuts. The Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is going to meet the US President Donald Trump on May 6th. And sailors compete in the 34th Al Ghafal race away from Dubai's skyline. Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Mark Lynn. Let's get you updates now from Waves 2025, the first of its kind, World Audio Visual and Entertainment Summit in Mumbai. Well, the first ever World Audiovisual and Entertainment Summit, Waves 2025, is taking place in Mumbai. It's organized by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and the event aims to spotlight India's entertainment potential on a global stage. Day 3 of the summit is witnessing big names, global collaborations, and public sessions. The summit opens to the public on May 3, in fact, and May 4, and features live events, performances, and interactive exhibits. And in a major leap forward for India's creative and emerging technology ecosystem, the Union Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Ashwini Vaishnav, inaugurated a pioneering set of initiatives in the animation, visual effects, gaming, comics, and extended reality domains. And this is at Waves 2025. The expansive initiatives they were unveiled. They include industry internships, scholarships, startup funding, rendering parks, game design programs, and a nationwide collaboration with over 1,400 schools. Together, in fact, these programs aim to create a dynamic pipeline of skilled professionals. They also catalyze entrepreneurship. Prominent global technology leaders such as Google, Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Adobe, and NVIDIA, they are all actively participating in this journey, providing validation and support for India's bold vision in the digital creative space. And speaking at this event, the Minister Vaishnav, he emphasized India's immense potential in the M&E industry. And the Minister said that a new initiative in the field of film, media and entertainment has begun in India just 2 days ago. And with the kind of talent that India possesses, India is taking its first step towards leading the world.
India can take the global leadership in the world of media and entertainment. That is the kind of talent we have. 1 billion plus talent and 5,000 years old civilization. Billions of stories to tell. I look forward to more and more inputs from the industry participants. We are a very open-minded government. Our Prime Minister always encourages us to listen and make the changes which are required for helping our youngsters, helping our talent find the right opportunities.
Some other news now. Sri Lanka, I beg your pardon, Singapore's Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, he cast his vote on Saturday in the country's general election, which will test public approval of the new leader as the city-state braces for economic turbulence amid a global trade war. Voting takes place at polling stations across the nation, and this election is widely regarded as the first significant test for Wong and his ruling People's Action Party, the PAP. Now, the PAP is expected to retain a clear majority in Parliament under the leadership of Wong, who succeeded the long-time leader Lee Hsien Loong. He did so last year, and amid looming U.S. tariffs and uncertain economic future, approximately 2.75 million Singaporeans are expected to vote in this election, which will determine the 97 members in the country's unicameral parliament. The initial results are expected to begin emerging around midnight. The opposition Workers' Party, led by Pritam Singh, is seeking to challenge the overwhelming dominance of the People's Action Party. In some other elections, Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese also cast his ballot in the national election in Sydney on Saturday with his son Nathan as well as his fiancée Jodie Hayden. And Australia is now voting in a national election, with polls suggesting that Albanese's Labour Party is likely to outperform the Conservative opposition led by Peter Dutton's Liberal National Coalition. The polling booths in Australia, among the few democracies which has mandatory voting, opened early in the morning, although a record 8 million out of the 18 million eligible voters had already cast their ballots before Saturday. Overseas, tens of thousands of Australians were expected to cast their ballots at booths set up in 83 countries. The US President Donald Trump unveiled a budget plan that cuts woke and wasteful spending while increasing funding for defense and border security. Trump's administration on Friday proposed a $163 billion cut to the federal budget that would sharply reduce spending on education, housing and medical research next year. The administration said the proposed budget would raise Homeland Security spending by nearly 65% from 2025 enacted levels. Non-defense discretionary spending, which excludes the massive Social Security and Medicare programs, and the rising interest payments on the nation's debt would be cut by 23%, he says. Now, the budget proposal calls for a $50 billion cut in the State Department, a $2.49 billion cut in the IRS, 15% cut in the Department of Education, big cuts these are, and funding for the Department of Housing and Urban Development would be cut almost in half. So the United States Office of Management and Budget also called for sharp cuts to NASA's moon program and a federal law enforcement agency. So serious cuts there by the US president. Meanwhile, President Trump has downplayed concerns about the potential economic trouble that the country is facing. He says that everything's going to be okay in the long term, even if the US economy is experiencing a recession in the short one. And during an interview, he was speaking to NBC News, Donald Trump said that the US was in a transition period. It was going to do fantastically, using his words, while downplaying the impact of any short-term recession. And Trump's comments on the US economy being in a transition period have echoed comments that he made earlier on Friday in a social media post in which he also cited strong employment, and he reiterated his call for the US Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. The Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney stated that he would be in Washington on May 6 for discussions with the US President Donald Trump, which he anticipates will be difficult but constructive. Carney is fresh from a victorious election campaign focused on standing up against Trump. And he said that two neighbors need to create new security and defense ties. He said that, and I'm quoting him, "Our focus will be on the broader future economic and security relationship between our two sovereign nations," unquote.
As I've stressed repeatedly, our old relationship, based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The questions now are how our nations will cooperate in the future and where we in Canada will move on. Our focus will be on both immediate trade pressures and the broader future economic and security relationship between our two sovereign nations.
Well, Carney also stated that the focus of Tuesday's meetings would be on immediate trade issues like tariffs as well as long-term plans. Further, he said that he would unveil his cabinet in a week starting from May 12 and reveal the government's plans on May 27. Let's take a look at other stories from around the world. And a small plane vanished during its flight from Bores to Trinidad, leaving authorities in suspense for 48 hours. It was later discovered by rescuers in Bolivia's Bani region, where all the 5 passengers, including a child, survived. The pilot revealed that an engine failure had forced an emergency landing near the Etomas River. British Columbia, the westernmost province of Canada, is battling with a blaze as officials warn of a heightened wildfire risk. Currently, 26 active fires are burning across the province, with 2 out of control. Now, dry, warm and windy conditions are said to be fueling the danger. One fire, in fact, near Fort St. John, forced temporary evacuations, while another near Dawson Creek continues to expand. Some of the greatest artworks in history, from Picasso to Monet to Giacometti, they are set to go under the hammer at Christie's and Sotheby's in the spring auctions in New York. Now, Giacometti's striking sculpture could fetch over $70 million, while Monet and Picasso's paintings carry multi-million-dollar estimates. As economic uncertainty looms, collectors see art not just as beauty, but as a safe investment for the future. And under the blazing sun, hundreds of sailors took to the Gulf for the 34th edition of the Al Ghafal race. They were far away from the towering skyscrapers of Dubai. More than 100 teams competed in traditional dhows near Cebu Nair Island. And this is about 100 kilometers from Dubai and Abu Dhabi. The race celebrates the region's maritime heritage, bringing together skilled sailors for a test of endurance and tradition. Well, that's the sum and substance of the news as we speak. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, you can get the latest news and updates from DD India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available on Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code and download it. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn. Thank you very much for watching DD India Live. Namaskar. Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work